Hi, my name is Caleb Lindsay. Today's date is February 28th, 2026, and this is going to be my week 2 submission for FTH 212. So today we're going to be messing with a PSA dagger. I have it in a completely disassembled state right now, and what I'm going to be doing in this first section is I'm going to be doing 6 random components. I'm going to talk about the function of each of those components and then where that function fits in the cycle of operations. All right, so I used a random number generator. I got my 6 components. And I don't know if I did this right because I'm supposed to talk about where some of this stuff fits into the cycle of operations. And I got stuff like this, which we're going to talk about, which is your trigger spring, which we'll talk about it, but it plays a direct role in firing. And then I also got little pieces like this, okay, which is your front sight that doesn't play a direct role in the cycle of operations. But I'm going to just go with all the components that I got. And yeah. Okay, so the first thing that I got on my number generator was this guy right up here. This is your magazine follower. Okay. Your cartridges are going to sit on top of it. That's what they're supported by. And it's going to allow energy to basically transfer from the spring inside of here up to the cartridges, pushing them upward for feeding. Okay. It's also going to feed those cartridges or allow them to be fed at the appropriate feed angle. Also activates your slide stop. Okay, it catches right on the side right here. This plays an active role in feeding. Okay, next, right here, this little guy, but that is your trigger spring. The trigger spring connects to the trigger bar and the trigger housing. It's going to help with the rearward movement of the trigger bar. It helps striker cocking upon your trigger squeeze, and it returns the trigger to its forward position through reset. Okay, and then it plays an active role in firing. So this one it's an important piece. Okay, so this is your locking block. It's going to basically just unlock your barrel from the slide rearward movement after firing. This little guy right here is your front sight. It's basically just your primary index while aiming. You're going to line this up with your rear sights, and that's going to align your bore with your target. Okay, it does not play an active role in any of the cycle operations, but it's important nonetheless. So this component right here is, I would say, mechanically a lot more important than the front sight post. And it does have an active role in the cycle of operations. So this is your trigger bar. This guy right here is going to transfer the movement of your trigger squeeze rearward. This guy up here drops down, releasing the striker, hitting your primer. And it has a direct role in firing. Okay, the last component I got, this is your striker safety. Basically, this is just going to block the forward movement of the striker. So it's going to prevent discharge unless the trigger is actually pulled. It doesn't really play a direct role in the cycle of operations, but I guess it does kind of play an active role before firing, and especially while the firearm is at rest. It's a safety device. All right, so next I'm going to go ahead and identify some critical dimensions, potential failures, and damage, and where that is most likely to occur when using these firearms, starting with the magazine follower. So one of the first critical dimensions on this is going to be the slope that the magazine follower is at. Slope is going to determine the angle that the cartridge is at when it gets stripped off the top of the magazine and into the chamber. The two other dimensions that I thought were important were going to be the width and length of the follower, so that way it has smooth operation inside of the magazine housing. I have never seen a follower fail. I have seen magazine housings do like crack and stuff like that. I've seen springs fail. I've seen the retainer fail. I've never actually seen a follower fail. But I think if one did, or most likely problem is going to be this corner right where your slide catch. And if that fails, then all that's going to happen is when you fire your last cartridge, instead of stopping rearward, it's just going to go back forward. And next, we've got the trigger spring again. The trigger spring tension is going to determine like your reset and trigger pull weight. But I've never actually seen one of these fails. Maybe tension could be, I don't know, I guess you could lose tension All right, next we've got our locking block. Most important dimension on here would be this angle right in here, because this angle, along with the lug on the bottom of your barrel, is going to determine your unlock timing. Okay? The critical dimension would be the sides of your locking block, because that is exactly where your slide is going to be moving on. That's your guide. Okay, so those are important as well. So for like the step 4 in our assignment this week, identify and discuss the training a gunsmith should undergo to avoid causing serious damage to these components. In my mind, like what we're doing right now, going through these formal classes, will give you a better idea of what needs to happen to certain components to repair them without causing more damage. For instance, going through like the 1911 class with SDI, you learn about some of the tolerances and critical dimensions that you should not be messing with, like if you're adjusting trigger weights and stuff, because it makes the firearm unsafe. You could also do like an apprenticeship, having somebody there to guide you through some of this stuff would probably be very, very beneficial. It also asks to identify additional components that interact with the 6. Explain how they interact. For instance, like this, the striker safety, it's going to have a plunger inside of that cup right there. The thing that it really interacts with is the striker. Okay, so it sits. It's going to be kind of hard to demonstrate. It sits kind of like that. And when you're going to fire, this thing moves up, allowing the striker to move past it. Magazine follower is going to be your slide stop, this guy right here. The magazine housing, the magazine spring, your cartridges, your locking block that's going to be interacting with your barrel and your slide. These things, it seems like, I'm going to say like a solid 95% of what goes in these striker-fired pistols, at least the one that we're working on today, like this PSA Dagger, almost everything in here has a purpose. And then the last part of step 4 says, choose one of the components you identified and estimate the time a gunsmith should take to replace this component. Are there any specialty tools that will need to be used? Let's go with the front sight. Okay, so the front sight on this should not take very long. It just sits right in here. So you'd have to at least field strip the firearm to break the slide away from the frame, or recoil spring and barrel. And that pretty much gets everything out of the way of this. Right there in the top is where that sits. And there's just a screw that holds it on. And that's pretty much it. So you just take that thing out, you put a new one in, and you're done. You reassemble. It shouldn't take more than, 10-15 minutes. Then lastly, step 5, I'm going to go ahead and reassemble the firearm. You guys saw the before, which is just everything kind of scattered. I probably should have sectioned everything out, but yeah, I'll go ahead and reassemble it. All right, so it took a minute, but for the first time ever, it is together. Okay, and to move on, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. It is clear, so no magazine. There's nothing in the chamber. Good there. Okay, and then in the magazine, there's nothing. So we're clear here. So the last thing I need to do with this is get through the cycle of operations, and then we'll do the cycle of operations with snap caps. So the slide is going to come back. Barrel hits tilts up after it stops. Slide keeps coming back. Magazine is going to be pushing the cartridge up. Okay. It's going to start coming back forward. There we go. And it's going to strip around off the top of the magazine, feeding it into the chamber. While that cartridge is being pushed into the chamber, you also have the tang on the striker that's going to be pushing the trigger bar up. And then while traveling forward, the slide is actually going to push our barrel up into the locked position. So from there is where we can start manipulating our triggers. Okay, first by activating our trigger safety, which is going to be the bottom right here. It's going to go around its hinge, or its little pin, and then going into the trigger. The trigger is going to push the trigger bar back and down, and then it's going to release off of the striker. The striker is going to then receive all of that stored energy from the striker's spring, sending it forward into the primer, which would be this. Okay. Then you're going to get recoil. Okay. So with the recoil, slide is going to come back. Your extractor is going to pull the now spent cartridge out of the chamber. It's going to keep moving back. It's going to hit the ejector, sending it out of the ejection port. And it's going to go all the way back, and basically that cycle just starts all the way back over. And then the last part of our assignment this week is going to be basically demonstrating that same thing, running through the cycle of operations with our snap caps. And this will be great because this is going to tell me whether or not this firearm is actually put together correctly. Okay, so we're going to grab our cartridge. Okay, so pull it from there, goes into the chamber. I don't think I let it go fast enough. There we go. Okay, so now we're locked. I'd pull the trigger. It fires. Okay, we're going to extract and eject. Hey, and then perfect. It's looking good. Anyways, that's my time this week. That's going to be my assignment for week 2. I'm finally glad that I got to put that thing together. It's been sitting on my bench for like 2 weeks now.